إنه يعلم الجهر من القول ويعلم ما تكتمون وإن أدري لعله فتنة لكم ومتاع إلى حين قال رب احكم بالحق وربنا الرحمن المستعان على ما تصفون صدق الله العظيم.
Sadaqallahul Azim. Jazakallah, Brother Luqman. Just for introduction, Dr. Maszlee Malik was born in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. And his early education is in Sekolah Temenggung Abdul Rahman in Johor Bahru. And he furthered his studies in Jordan. And got his bachelor degree in fiqh and usul fiqh from University Al-Bayt, and he continued his master degrees in University of Malaya, Malaysia, in the same field, and he finished his PhD in good governance from Durham University, England. Without further ado, this is Dr. Maszlee.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan kathira, Brother Zaha, Imam Zia, brothers and sisters. So, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with you some information perhaps on the topic that I hate most, actually, talking about religion and extremism. That's not an interesting subject to deal with. But anyway, thanks again for giving me this opportunity that I think since ages I haven't been talking in Masjid in English. Back there in Malaysia, we deliver speech in our own language. So it's, you know, when our friend, what was his name just now? Scott, yeah, Scott was there and talking passionately about his feeling to Muslims and how, and how we are not alone. And in this, I suppose, the age of turbulence you're living with, and the future, the near future that you are going to encounter, and we are not alone. Muslims are not alone out there. We still have friends from different faiths who are willing to give us their shoulder and to give us their hands together. And this reminds me of what I've gone through. It was 2010, 2009, 7 years ago, when I was the president of Islamic Society in a small county called Durham in the UK. I'm not sure whether you have heard of it, but it's a very remote county, not many Muslims. There's no big masjid like we have here in Dallas. Actually, I feel like home. Coming to these mosques, I feel like home, man. So it was a white people village and not many Muslims there, only postgrads who are doing the studies in. Why? The sound is not good. Little down. Okay. 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 Now I feel like a singer. A country singer. I'm in Dallas. Anyway. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it helps. So, 9 years ago, when I was the president of Islamic Society in Durham, and you know, those days, 2008, 2009, when there was a few issues of, I hate to mention it again, about bombings here and there, and an attempt to bomb an airplane, the shoe bomb guy, and we were having difficult time. I'm pretty sure it's not only us back in the UK, you guys here too were having that difficulties, a lot of, Islamiphobia, a lot of xenophobia, and etc. So we were very unfortunate then, because the only Muslim community that we have mainly are the postgrad students who came to Durham University for 3-4 years, and then we will leave Durham, that's all. And we only have one small mosque, which is situated just behind a pub. The only access to the mosque is the access to the pub. We need to smell that, that aroma before we enter our mosque. Alhamdulillah, anyway, it was rather a small mosque, and it's white town, white small town where, life was not really hectic. It was simple life, but when those kind of things happen, we were in difficult situation. So we were lucky. Oh, what is that? And you couldn't hear. Should I use sign language? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. You couldn't hear. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, good. 2 thumbs up. Oh, sorry, I lost that. Anyway, so it was. No, I was sharing my experience 7 years ago in Durham, a small white town in the UK, in the northeastern part of the UK. So our situation was very difficult then. Can you hear me? Good. So there was a situation, and we were lucky. Few people, just like Scott, and luckily we don't have evangelical churches in the UK, so we don't have that rhetoric like we have in America. But we have people with no faith there. Those who don't believe in God, they only believe in pub, drinking, and David Beckham. Yeah. So we have problems dealing with those people, and especially if you know about UK, you're talking about northeastern part of England. Is a Jodi land. People over there, they call them Jodis, and normally the way people in the UK describe people who live in this area are the people who are shirtless during winter. They don't put on their shirt during winter, and they are the supporters of the Newcastle Football Club. The Toon Armies, they call themselves, hooligans. Hooligans. Typical, just like those people that you see on telly. Okay, so we have people like Scott who came in front and said that, no worry, we are with you. And actually it was an eye-opener for most of us Muslims. All this while, because we were so exclusive, and I'm talking about those postgraduate students who came from Muslim countries, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Middle Eastern countries, from subcontinent. We were brought up and we were taught that, okay, we are Muslims, we are believers, and those are non-Muslims. Those, the non-believers, they are the enemy. They are the infidel kuffar. We should have al-wala wal-bara. No relation with them, no whatsoever. Communication, yes, communication only in mu'amalat, business transactions, but not more than that. We cannot be friends with them. And we were taught since our childhood. So when we moved to England, and it was a brief sojourn, 3 to 4 years, we were shocked when all these things happened, especially after September 11. We still have few reliable non-Muslim friends from the churches, even from the synagogues, and from the non-believers. I would say the non-faith community, people with no faith, with no religion, came to us and say, no worry, never be afraid, we are with you. You don't have anybody, you have us to stand with you. So it is an eye-opener, and we started to realize that we cannot live in our cocoon alone. We have a great responsibility. And actually, asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khairul lakum. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, maybe you dislike something, but it's good for you. There's a blessing in disguise. I still remember talking about religion and extremism. Actually, I don't know how our Malaysian brothers chose this topic for me. It happened to be 3 days ago that I was talking about this topic in Malaysia with other representatives from different faiths. We have a cardinal, we have a reverend with us, we have a priest, a representative from the Hindu. We were talking about religion and extremism. So I told them, actually, I hate to talk about these things. We should talk more about the similarities that will bind us together, the common good. Let us talk about religions and healthy living, religions and neighborhood, religions and taking care of the elders, religions and art, religions and culture, and that will make us together, make us trying to understand and mutually understand each other. Because in many cases, if you're talking about Islamophobia, xenophobia, even in Malaysia we have what we call is Christianophobia. We feel very allergic about Christians. Whenever we heard any news about Trump, American right wings or whatever, we said, oh, these are Islamophobes. These are that, they hate Islam, whatever. But without we realize that when we talk about Christians, I think we are acting worse than Trump. We're talking about refugees in Muslim countries. I think you would listen to Muslims talking bad about the refugees worse than Trump and worse than any right-wing supporters. We have that attitude. But when people have such an attitude towards us, we say, oh, it's unjust, it's very unjust, it's injustice, it's racist, it's this, that. But when we're dealing with each other, sometimes even amongst Muslims, when we're dealing with each other, we have that, I think, that similar tendency, or sometimes worse. Those who have been living in Gulf country, not all, but those that have experienced living in Gulf country know well what I'm saying. So that is why sometimes don't blame others. Look at ourselves and try to improve ourselves. Coming back to the topic of religion and extremism, when the topic was given to me, when our brothers from Malaysia said, oh, why don't you come to the mosque and speak something about it, came to my mind to talk about religion and extremism, because I think nowadays people talk about it a lot. And actually, if you look at the word extremism itself, sometimes it's misleading. It's very misleading, because extremism to one is piety to another. Extremism to one, sometimes to another, a freedom fighter, etc. But rather than talking about extremism, let us look at the root cause of extremism. So when we talk about religious and extremism, you would see extremism, terrorism, and whatever, they are only the tip of the iceberg. You have the root cause. What led to extremism? What led to terrorism, or whatever? In many cases, throughout the history, terrorism, extremism, they were only reactions to a certain situation of injustice and conflicts. When there's conflicts, you'd find the reaction to it will be worse. When there is injustice, the reaction towards injustice, you find terrorism or violence, etc. So why people resort to religion? Because they want to justify, because they want something that other belief couldn't provide them, and other ideological system couldn't provide them, which is hope. Because religion provides hope. Provides hope not only for the unseen, but
but also for the future that they couldn't foresee. Religion will provide some kind of sustainability within. So, if you look to the history, in many cases, you have terrorist group, you have terrorist organizations, whatever, they were just reactions towards the injustice that happened or conflicts that happen. So when we're talking about hope, I still remember I was addressing the other day, some of your officials came to Malaysia and organized, this kind of talks, how to deal with terrorism, whatever. I told them, the only way to overcome terrorism is to eliminate the root cause. But I know it's easy to say, but the political situation is difficult. But again, what we can do is to stop more people from becoming terrorists. Those who have been terrorists, we cannot do much about them. Khalas. But what we could do is to stop others from becoming like them. So, based on my experience after a year doing a kind of rehabilitation sessions with some of the detainees in Malaysia who were the suspects of IS affiliates or IS sympathizers, and those who have been detained by the government before they managed to go to Syria or Iraq. Throughout a one-year session with them, I realized that these people, they were hopeless and helpless. They feel hopeless looking at the situation of Muslims globally. They feel helpless looking at the situation of, the killing of civilians in Aleppo, for example, in Iraq, in Syria, in Palestine. They wanted to do something. And they have no hope. They wanted to do something and they couldn't see that they can do something without going and joining whoever who can provide them with hope. It happened to be when the ICs or ISOL, we call it here, emerged, those people provides them with hope. They said, we can liberate Muslim countries, number one. We can help, we can stop the killing of civilians. We can bring down all those, tyrants. Not only that, we have Khalifa. Not only that, we have Sharia. And not only that, for those who feel discriminated living in your country, and they were addressing Muslim minorities living in the West, living in China, living in, those who are being discriminated and oppressed, you are welcome to join us, because here you will no longer be discriminated, you will no longer be oppressed, you're one of us. And you're only one step to Jannah. You're only one step to go to heaven. Excuse me. So this kind of hope that they give, we might say that it's a false hope. But they are promising hope. So I told them, those who are working to counter terrorism, whatever, in Malaysia, and even the representative from your country, I told them, if you fail to give them an alternative hope, they will be an easy prey for those people. I think the major task for scholars, for Muslim community, for parents, to stop their children from joining those people is to provide them with the real hope. If they're talking about Jannah, we should talk about Jannah. They're talking about another step to Jannah, we should talk about another step to Jannah, but with more options. So I still remember, when I was dealing with some of those detainees, I'm not trying to overgeneralizing everything, but some of the detainees, I'm talking to them, said, why do you choose this path? Why do you want to go to Syria? Why do you want to, most of Malaysians, they ended up going there by excluding themselves because they are useless, they cannot be good good sniper, they couldn't be good fighter. The only thing they could do is cooking for the rest of their friends or explode themselves. So you'd find it in the headlines, oh, young Malaysians explode himself here in Iraq and Syria. So I did ask them, why going there? He said, oh, brother, we feel that we cannot go to heaven if we continue living with what we are living now. I said, what are you doing? He said, some of them, they're selling, fast food, some of them normal workers, the simple, what we say as not low class, down class workers, laborers and etc. But some of them professionals. But they feel that, oh, what we are doing now is difficult for us to go to Jannah. I said, why? Because we couldn't get up at night to pray tahajjud. And sometimes we always miss our Fajr prayer. And some of them, they are club goers, but some of them, they're good. Masjid goers, and you would always see them on the front line, but they said, if we don't go there, who will save the Muslims? Allah will question us. What have we done to save our Muslim ummah, our Muslim women and children that have been slaughtered in Syria, in Iraq, and etc. So I still remember, I tell them, you think Allah, yeah, definitely Allah will question us, what have we done to save them, but don't you think that Allah will also ask you, what have you done to your neighbors? You have neighbors there, back there in Malaysia, we have neighbors, consists of the Hindus, the Buddhists, Christians living amongst us. What have you done to them? Have you taught them about Islam? Have you ever give them present? Have you ever asking them how they're doing? Have you ever taken care of their charity? Because I believe that taking care of your neighbors, being kind to your neighbors is part of Islam. And I do make jokes to them, and you're worried about people living thousands of miles away from you, and you're not worried about those stray dogs living in front of your houses. He said, why should I bother about stray dogs? I say, don't you read a hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim where a prostitute saving a life of dying dog by giving the dog water, and Rasulullah SAW promised her to go to Jannah. And a lot of other things. I still remember in one hadith narrated by Tabrani, a Sahih hadith, a guy came to meet Rasulullah SAW, has been narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. He said that guy asked him, Ya Rasulullah, ma hiya ahabbul a'mal ilallah? Ya Rasulullah, what is the best deed before the eye of Allah SWT? And Rasulullah SAW did not say, go to Jihad. No. Rasulullah said, you help your brothers, that's the ahabul a'mal ilallah. You put smile on their face, that's among the ahabul a'mal ilallah. You ease their burden, that also considered as ahabul a'mal ilallah. And all these practical things, sometimes we're taking them for granted. I still remember they were talking about, oh, if we have Khalifa, then all problems of Muslim will be taken care of. I said, Akhi, I don't want to overgeneralizing the history, but please open the pages of history, of Muslim history. A lot of problem occurs, a lot of problem happens because of the Khulafa, because of the Khalifa. People fighting each other for that post. And I still remember Muhammad Abduh, one of the great reformists of Egypt, when he was asked by his disciple Rashid Rida. Rashid Rida has written a book called Al-Khilafa. It was about Khilafa. He said, oh teacher, please put a forward to my book. And he refused. Muhammad Abduh said, why do we need this thing? Throughout the centuries, Muslims were fighting each other because of this post, and now you're calling them to resurrect this thing? No, I'm not going to write that forward. But we have debates on that. But what I'm trying to say, when I'm telling those detainees, I said, there are a lot of other options. And sometimes we neglect things that are around us. You're looking at things far away from you. And in Malaysia, I still remember one of my students came to me and asked me, he said, excuse me, sir, what do you think about some people, they are interpreting some of the attributes of God, the ayat mutashabihat, some of the verses that saying that God has attributes which is similar to human being, they are giving interpretation to it. They're giving ta'wil to it. Don't you think it's kind of bidah? That's it. But there are certain groups saying that whoever giving interpretation to the attributes of God, which is similar to the attributes of man, then they are mujassima. You know, those kind of things. I told them, excuse me, brother, you're asking me about this thing, and certain, we have some Muslims fighting each other and even excommunicating each other because of these small issues that have been discussed and I think have finished discussed by scholars 1,000 years ago. You keep discussing about it, but who is feeding the poor? Who are going to the jungle of Borneo and helping those tribes living there, providing them with electricity, paving roads for them? Who are doing those things? And who are the ones who going to the hospitals and visit the patients? Not the Muslims, but the Christians, but the Buddhists. They are doing their dawah. And you are busy talking about this ayat mutashabihat and about the khilaf mazhab and whatever. And when I was dealing with those detainees, I did ask them, why are you going to Syria? Oh, we want to perform jihad. We want to go to Jannah. I said, you know, while you're thinking and planning to go to Syria, which is thousands over miles away from Malaysia, you have those Christian missionaries, the Buddhist activists, and you know, Hindu organizations. They are visiting the hospitals. They're going inside the jungles, teaching the children, building for them schools, teaching English, and at the same time, they're teaching them their religion, their faith. And you are thinking of going far, far away and neglecting people living surrounding you. So where is your awlawiyat? And if you're saying that, oh, what will you answer God when God questions you? What have you done to the people in Syria, in Iraq, whatever? I told them, I think Allah will first question you, what have you done to your fellow Malaysians? Have you shown good example of Islamic akhlaq? Have you conveyed to them the message of Islam? Have you reached their heart in bringing and showing them? Just now, our small Hafiz has been reciting the verse saying that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, and verily I did not send you, God tell Prophet Muhammad, I did not send you except to be mercy to mankind. Have you be the agents of mercy, like what Prophet told us to do and like what Quran told us to do? Have you done that? I think you will be questioned about all these things, about people living surrounds you, before Allah asks you about what have you done to save people in Syria, in Aleppo, in Iraq and everywhere else. Because you know, when you're talking about those kind of situations, those are the responsibilities of Muslim leaders. Because they have powers, they have means. And it's not the responsibilities of civilians like us. We have power to lobby them. You know, now we have social media, whatever. You can give pressure to them. But Allah will never put that as the priority to ask you during the day of Mahshar. But Allah definitely will ask you, have you be kind to your neighbors? Have you be kind to your community? What have you done? Have you conveyed the message of Islam to them? And have you shown good example to them? So I did put a challenge to them. If you think you're true mujahideen, go to the jungle of Borneo build and pave the roads for people inside there who are still living in jungle, build schools for them, give them good educations like the Christians are doing. And that is your jihad. I still remember in the book written by Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Fiqhul Jihad. It's 2 big volumes. I'm not sure whether it has been translated to English yet, but it has been translated into Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Melayu in Malaysia. Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi has been talking about the civil jihad. The civil jihad. Rather than armed jihad, nowadays civilians like us, what we can do is civil jihad. And this civil jihad, we have been neglecting it. So I think it is important for us, not only in Malaysia but also in Dallas, trying to embark with our civil jihad. We're not going to pick up arms, but we're going to pick up mercy and words and kindness. We're going to share with people the kindness and teaching of Islam. Yesterday I visited a friend in Houston. I still remember he was talking to his neighbor. You know, it's Christmas Eve. People are celebrating Christmas soon. We are a few days away from Christmas. And instead of only greeting his neighbors with, "Hey, Merry Christmas, John, Merry Christmas," he said, "Hey, Merry Christmas. And you know one thing? We do love Jesus." The neighbors were surprised. "You Muslims love Jesus?" I said, "Definitely. That's part of our iman. If you don't believe," he said, "What do you mean you love Jesus?" "We believe in Jesus. We love Jesus." He said, "Okay, stop right there." "What do you mean you love in Jesus? You believe in Jesus as a savior?" And that guy said, "For us, we believe all the prophets are the saviors." "Oh, wait a minute." He said, "Do you believe in Jesus like as a father?" And that guy said, "Unfortunately, my father is in Malaysia, still kicking, still alive, and thinking of marrying another one." Okay, after my mom passed away. That's from me. Anyway, it's not from him. Anyway. He said, No. He said, so what do you mean you believe in Jesus?" He said, "Jesus is one of the prophets in Islam, and we believe that he brought the same message as Muhammad, and Muhammad completed his message." Okay, worse than that, "John, do you know that we also believe that Jesus is coming, the imminent coming of Jesus before the end of the day?" That guy was surprised. He's an evangelist. You know, evangelists believe that Jesus will come back and bring that happy millennium. He said, "No way. How come you Muslim believe?" "Yes, we were taught by Muhammad. We were taught by Prophet Muhammad. We were told by him that Jesus will be coming to earth." He said, "Come on, are you Muslim? Are you evangelist?" He said, "No, I'm Muslim." "It can't be." He said, "Yes, that's what we've been told by Muhammad. But bad news, because we believe when Jesus comes, he will convert you guys to Muslims." Oh, come on. But anyway, you know, these kind of things, sharing information about Islam is very interesting, especially during Christmas. You need to show your love to Jesus during Christmas and say to them that Muhammad, who was the one who told us to love Jesus, it was Quran who taught us to love Jesus, but as one of our beloved prophets and not as Son of God. And that will make us closer. You know, one thing, one of my students is from Dallas, is one of the Al-Bayyinah Institute students. Now he's completing his Sharia degree in International Islamic University in Malaysia. It was not he, it was his wife, who has written a very good piece about we need to reflect on ourselves. Actually, he was addressing Muslims in Dallas, you guys, after the victory of the President-elect Donald Trump. But it's very interesting. When I read her piece, I thought, oh, I could relate myself to it. I think it's not only, I told her, your piece, your article, is not only about Muslims in Dallas per se, but it's also about Muslims all around the world. She said that actually it's an eye-opener. It's a wake-up call for us to look at ourselves, that all this while we were being so exclusive that we are not having friends with non-Muslims, that we could share with them a lot of things about Islam that will eliminate all the misconceptions and preconceptions and prejudice towards Islam and Muslim. So I told her, I thought it's only Muslims in the UK. No, say the same thing with Muslims in America. But I also told her that, and bad news, it's also the case of Muslims in Malaysia. We're not really communicating with non-Muslims, despite of being the majority Muslim country. And most of majority Muslim countries, we have that attitude. We have that misconception towards others, and it's mutually coming back to us. So I think I'm not the best person to talk about this, and I hate to call people, because I'm not a good person. I'm trying to be good. I'm learning to be good. But I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen you guys in America for this heavy but worth task, which is to be the agents of mercy, which is to be the du'at of Islam, which is to be you were forced anyway, whether you like it or not, with the current situation, you are being forced by Allah to convey the message of Islam. You must make friends with a lot of people like Scott, people who hate Scott, people who hate you. You need to engage with them. You have no excuse. And I feel happy looking at this mosque, and alhamdulillah, I mean, you guys are making a great jihad. But the real jihad is not within this mosque. The real jihad is outside this mosque. I'm not talking about picking up arms. I'm talking about engagement. I'm talking about an active participation as citizen. Being good citizen is not only by paying tax, but also to be there, engage with them, helping the poor, helping the vulnerable, and making your presence felt by everybody. I know you are living in a tough time. Easier said than experiencing the reality. My dua is always with you. But again, I hope that we will make dua and make this challenge a worth one. And thanks Allah who has given us the opportunity. And let us work together in spreading the word of Islam. And again, thank you very much, the Masjid, for inviting me, and jazakumullah khairan kathir. Wallahu alam bisawab.
Yeah. What? Jazakallah khair, Dr. Maszlee. This concludes our talk for tonight. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.